की जय,
जय
गंगा माई की जय,
जय
जमुना माई की जय,
जय
तुलसी देवी की जय,
जय
भक्ति देवी की जय,
जय
क्षमवेता भक्त वृंद की जय,
जय
गौर प्रेम आनंदे.
हरि हरि
Very
बोल।
good.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna,
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna,
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna,
All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Hare Bol.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
We are reading and studying and discussing Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita, Adi Lila chapter 10. Here we are at text number 61.
শিবানন্দের উপশাখা তার পরিকর পুত্র ভৃত্য আদি করি চৈতন্য কিঙ্কর.
The sons, servants, and family members of Shivanand Sen constituted a sub-branch. They were all sincere servants of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
চৈতন্য দাস, রামদাস আর কর্ণপুর তিন পুত্র শিবানন্দের প্রভুর ভক্তসুর.
The three sons of Shivanand Sen, named Chaitanya Das, Ram Das, and Karnapur, were all heroic devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Purport. Chaitanya Das, the eldest son of Shivanand Sen, wrote a commentary on Krishna Caritamrita, which was later translated by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his paper Sajjanatoshani. According to expert opinion, Chaitanya Das was the author of the book Chaitanya Charita, which was written in Sanskrit. The author was not Kavi Karanapur as generally supposed. This is the opinion of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Sri Ram Das was the second son of Shivanand Sen. It is stated in the Gaur Gunadesh Dipika 145 that two experienced servants of Lord Krishna named Shuka and Dakka in Krishna Lila became the elder brothers of Kavi Karanapur, namely Chaitanya Das and Ramdas. Karanapur, the third son, who was also known as Paramananda Das or Puri Das, was initiated by Srinath Pandit, who was a disciple of Sri Advaita Prabhu. Karanapur wrote many books that are important in Vaishnav literature, such as Ananda Vrindavan Champu, Alankar Kaustubha, Gaura Gunadesh Dipika, and the great epic Chaitanya Chandrodoy Natak. He was born in the year 1448, and he continually wrote books for 10 years, from 1488 until 1498. Next verse.
শ্রী বল্লভ সেন আর সেন শ্রীকান্ত শিবানন্দ সম্বন্ধে প্রভুর ভক্ত একান্ত.
Sri Vallabh Sen and Sri Kant Sen were also sub-branches of Shivananda Sen, Shivanand Sen, for they were not only his nephews, but also unalloyed devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport. When Lord Nityananda Prabhu rebuked Shivanand Sen on the way to Puri, these two nephews of Shivananda left the company as a protest and went to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. The Lord could understand the feelings of the boys, and he asked his personal assistant, Govinda, to supply them prasad until the party of Shivananda arrived. During the Ratha Yatra Sankirtan festival, these two brothers were members of the party led by Mukunda. In the Gaura Gunadesh Dipika, it is said that the gopi, whose name was Katyayani, appeared as Shrikant Sen. Text 64.
প্রভু প্রিয় গোবিন্দানন্দ মহা ভাগবত প্রভুর কীর্তনিয়া আদি শ্রী গোবিন্দ দত্ত।
Govindananda and Govinda Datta, the 25th and 26th branches of the tree, were performers of kirtan in the company of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Govinda Datta was the principal singer in Lord Chaitanya's kirtan party. Purport. Govinda Datta appeared in the village of Shukachar near Kadahdaha.
শ্রী বিজয় দাস নাম প্রভুর আখরিয়া প্রভুরে অনেক পুঁথি দিয়াছে লিখিয়া।
Sri Vijayadash, the 27th branch, another of the Lord's chief singers, gave the Lord many books written by hand. Purport. Formerly, there were no printing presses, nor printed books. All books were handwritten. Precious books were kept in manuscript form in temples or important places, and anyone who was interested in a book had to copy it by hand. Vijayadash was a professional writer who copied many manuscripts and gave them to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitang Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupakata Maikyam Dadati Shapandantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before talking, I'd like to first ask permission and blessings from the senior devotees who are senior by age, involvement in Krishna consciousness, or advancement in devotional service. What happened to Vijay Das? Vijay Das is below there, yeah. So this, we're coming to a part of the Chaitanya Caritamrita, this chapter, where many devotees are described, and there won't be too much description of specifics about them. So I don't know if you're like me, but I have to admit that in the past, I've kind of skipped over these parts because the different names, without knowing too much about them, it's a little difficult to continue, at least for me, to keep my attention. So I'm very grateful that we're able to do this together, because by speaking together and hearing together, it gives me inspiration, and perhaps you also, to focus on these devotees that were wonderful devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but perhaps we don't know that much about them. I know the same thing happened to me when I first read the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book. There's a few chapters there that are quite long. I don't know if you know, which chapters are those? Prayers of the Personified Vedas is quite long, and also description of autumn is quite long. So it takes quite a good amount of focus to continue to read and understand them. But when we read those in the Association of Devotees, it became very easy to do so, but to continue to focus on these aspects of Lord Krishna's activities and philosophy. So I suspect the same thing will happen here. So sometimes it's required just to continue to hear, and even if we don't have very many details, even if I don't know the details, perhaps some of you might know some details about these devotees, but just to hear their names and to focus on them as Lord Chaitanya's eternal associates is going to be purifying for our consciousness. Does that follow? Do you accept? Yeah, follow that? Yeah. So I'll do the best I can to elaborate if there is some. And please, if you have items or thoughts to add, then you please do so. You could either do so just directly, or you could raise your hand too. So this, I think there's about another 40 verses or 30 some verses. Many of them I don't know any details about those devotees. But here we find about Sri Vijay. He was a writer by trade, and he also sang for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his kirtan party. So if you remember, do you remember any other times it's described when the scriptures books were written for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Yes, Acharya Prabhu.
I think, didn't Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself copy Brahma Samhita, I think, at a South Indian temple?
My understanding was he had it copied, but you're correct. It was when he was touring South India, he came to a temple known the Adi Keshava temple, and that's where he discovered the Brahma Samhita, not the whole thing, but just the 5th chapter. And so he had it copied. Yes, you may be right. You want to check that. My recollection is he had it copied, but it could have been he copied it himself. But that would be, it's not that
I'm not
long.
certain.
Yeah. And there was another time also. Remember? It had to do with a devotee of Lord Ramchandra.
Is that portion of the Karma Purana, and he actually
Is that somebody speaking? So there was the devotee of Lord Ramchandra that Lord Chaitanya in South India near Rameshwaram, who was disturbed because he invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for lunch. But when Lord Chaitanya came there, he hadn't cooked anything, and he was lamenting. He said, well, Lakshman's back out in the forest and he'll come but he was lamenting that how is it that Ravana has taken away Sita? So then when Lord Chaitanya went to a temple down there near Rameshwaram, he got also information there that he copied he had copied part of the Puranas where it describes how that was actually not the real Sita, but a Maya Sita. Do you remember that? Yeah, so those are a couple of instances. But so luckily we have the printing press now, so these books can go out to a lot of people all over the world, even if they don't copy them by hand. And so this Janmashtami and Vyasa Puja coming up, Vyasa Puja, is a good opportunity for distributing more of these books too. So if anyone would like to help out with that, we can arrange that. In the mood of Vijay and Lord Chaitanya. Okay?
Just skip.
Yeah, next one is fine.
রত্নবাহু বলি প্রভু থুইল তার নাম, অকিঞ্চন প্রভুর প্রিয় কৃষ্ণদাস নাম।
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave Vijay Das the name Ratnabahu, jewel-handed, because he copied for him many manuscripts. The 28th branch was Krishna Das, who was very dear to the Lord. He was known as Akinchana Krishna Das. Purport. Akinchana means one who possesses nothing in this world. Do you know a verse that has that word Akinchana in it? It's in the prayers of Queen Kunti. No? Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribir Edhamana Mada Puman Naivarhatya Pidatum Vai Twam Akinchana Gochara. You are only possessed by those who have nothing in this world, not by those who are on the path of progress of good birth, wealth, good education, and beauty. They can approach you. And the people who are intoxicated by those things, they can approach you with sincere feeling, but you are the possession of someone who's akinchana. That's a nice prayer by Mother Queen Kunti. Text 67.
খোলা বেচা শ্রীধর প্রভুর প্রিয় দাস, যাহা শনে প্রভু করে নিত্য পরিহাস।
The 29th branch was Sridhar, a trader in banana tree bark. He was a very dear servant of the Lord. On many occasions, the Lord played jokes on him. Purport. Sridhar was a poor Brahmin who made a living by selling banana tree bark to be made into cups. Most probably, he had a banana tree garden and collected the leaves, skin, and pulp of the banana trees to sell daily in the market. He spent 50% of his income to worship the Ganges, and the balance he used for his subsistence. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his civil disobedience movement in defiance of the Kaji, Sridhar danced in jubilation. The Lord used to drink water from his water jug. Sridhar presented a squash to Sachi Devi to cook before Lord Chaitanya took sannyas. Every year he went to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. According to Kavi Karanapur, Sridhar was a cowherd boy of Vrindavan whose name was Kusumasava. In the Gaura Gunadesh Dipika, verse 133, it is stated, Kola vecha taya kyata pandita Sridharo dvija asid braje hasyo karo yo namna Kusumasava. The cowherd boy known as Kusumasava in Krishna Lila later became Kolavecha Sridhar during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Lila at Navadvip. So interesting point here that Lord Chaitanya was playing jokes on Kolavech Sridhar. So joking is also part of Krishna consciousness we see here. And Lord Chaitanya himself played jokes. Do you know what jokes that was? What was he doing? Do you remember the jokes? Go ahead. Ram Sham is going to say something.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I think he was making fun of him, like why you are selling the banana leaf, and weight is too costly, give me half price, and why you are worshipping Mother Ganga? You worship me, like that. That I remember.
Well, yes, he said, "Why are you worshiping?" Not why are you worshiping? He was happy. He was worshiping Mother Ganges, but he said, "You're not charging the Ganges River any for the offerings you're giving, so you should also not charge me." That's what he
Yeah.
says. And they would squabble. You know, I think you and everybody here knows that if you go to India, it's the standard that you have to bargain. You haggle over the prices, isn't it?
Yeah.
And many people, they become quite animated and they enjoy doing so, isn't it? Whereas in the United States, it's fixed price. So anyway, Kolave Sridhar, people knew that he was not making any money, really. He was just living barely. He had his house had the roof, thatched hut had a hole in it, and he had very, very little. So they wouldn't haggle with Kolave Sridhar. They knew he had pretty much fixed price. But Lord Chaitanya would haggle. Lord Chaitanya would enjoy haggling, and they would go back and forth, and Lord Chaitanya would just take his things, and Kolave Sridhar would try to hold them back, and they would argue back and forth over the price like that. It's interesting because in that way, sometimes when you argue with somebody in a jovial way, it's a way of remaining in their affectionate contact. It wasn't in anger, real anger, only feigned anger. Acharya Prabhu, you had raised your hand.
Yeah, I don't have, I can't quote verse here, but some say that Kushamasava is another name for Krishna's Brahmana friend Madhu Mangal.
Oh, okay. So there was some joking between Krishna and Madhu Mangal as well, isn't it? They would joke over how would they get some laddus? What was the price for laddus? Yeah, if you give me some laddus, then I'll give you a blessing. Krishna and Madhu Mangal, the Brahmin, would say. It was the dwarf Brahmin. Yeah. So anyway, there's joking is going on, and the Krishna consciousness, there's joking as well. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes joke. I don't know if you remember any jokes that Srila Prabhupada did. He was quite a vibrant and insightful sense of humor, quite a bit. So, for example, Srila Prabhupada used to have a closet. They call it an almirah. We don't use that word so much, almirah. And in that almirah, there was a lock that he kept locked, usually because it had his valuables there, and he kept that key very carefully. So one time, he gave that key to Tamal Krishna Maharaj for safekeeping. You know this? So then Tamal Krishna somehow misplaced the key, and Srila Prabhupada then asked him, please get something from the Almirah. And Tamal Krishna was looking around for the key. He couldn't find it anywhere. So he went all over this was in Juhu, Bombay. So he went everywhere looking, trying to find the key. He was frantic and he couldn't find it anywhere. So finally, he came back to Srila Prabhupada and he had to admit they had lost the key. So you know what Srila Prabhupada did?
No.
He said, call all the GBC. Call the GBC here. Call all the GBC. What should be done? You've lost the key to this. So anyway, he embarrassed Tamal Krishna Maharaj like that. And then Prabhupada revealed that when Tamal Krishna had misplaced the key, he put it, actually Srila Prabhupada had found it and kept it, and he had it all the whole time. So anyway, that's a little joke there he played on Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So sometime with Lord Chaitanya he would give Kolave Sridhar only half the price of what he was asking, and just leave. like Lord Krishna would sometimes steal butter, yogurt, and things. So he would just leave. So finally, Kulavit Sridhar agreed that he would just give Lord Chaitanya his items. They say there's different parts of the banana because he was banana tree. He was living very close to a banana tree garden. So there were bananas, and you call the banana flour, what do you call that?
Mocha.
Mocha. And there's some other parts of the banana bark is mentioned here that people would make the cups and stuff. And then there was also some internal part of the banana stalk that they would use, something. I don't know what that is. Perhaps you know. But all those things Kulavit Sridhar was selling. And Lord Chaitanya enjoyed his pastimes with Kulavit Sridhar and haggling. So we can also haggle for Krishna to get lower prices as well, following Lord Chaitanya's example, even with devotees. Is that Ram Sham, you have your hand up, or is that from before?
Yeah, Prabhuji, just wanted to say, like for the jokes and all, I remember somewhere there is a verse like hasya parihasya, something.
Yes, in No Nectar Devotion, right?
Yeah, hasya parihasya, something. I don't remember the full one. So yeah, there also it is there. Like devotee among themselves also, while glorifying the Lord, they can do the jokes, something like that.
Yeah, actually, in the Rath Yatra here, Rath Yatra festival, there's so we used to invite this devotee named Yadunath from New York, and his occupation is a comedian, and so he would do Krishna conscious jokes. Of course, you have to need a little bit of awareness of what Krishna consciousness is to get some of the jokes. So maybe it didn't go over as good, but for devotees, it's quite funny. And in the Mayapur festival, devotees from London used to come, and they used to put on some plays that were comedic, and they were quite funny in Krishna service. Anybody else have any jokes they'd like to tell about Krishna consciousness? Yes, Acharya Prabhu, there he is.
Not a joke to tell, but you may remember when there was the big brainwashing case in New York.
Yes.
You must have
Yes.
been living there at that time. And after the judgment came down in the devotee's favor, I don't know what the judge said, but he must have said something humorous. And Prabhupada wrote a letter commenting on it. He said, every intelligent man must have a sense of humor.
Yes, yes. And that's displayed quite well. Srila Prabhupada displayed that. Yes, Lord Chaitanya here. Of course, he's the God, but everything is there. Janmadyasya yataha. Where does the sense of humor come from? You have it because originally it comes from Krishna. You can't have it unless it's there in Krishna. Okay, thank you. Next.
প্রভু যার নিত্য লয় থোড় মোচা ফল, যার ফুটা লৌহ পাত্রে প্রভু পিলা জল.
Every day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu jokingly snatched fruits, I guess those are the bananas, yeah, flowers, mocha, and pulp, and drank from his broken iron pot. What's the pulp? What is that pulp? Anybody know? Thoda, the pulp of the banana tree. Do you know what they use that for? Anybody?
Yes, Prabhu, in Bengali, it is called thor. It's the inside of the trunk. It's a white kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that is thor, the pulp of banana tree.
And what is it used for?
They cook. We cook and we eat. It's
You
for
take-
eating. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Vegetable.
Yes.
So you do it in South India too?
Yeah, we use it quite a bit in South India. It has to be
Raita,
tender.
vegetable,
We can make like a raita out of it, or we can
vegetable
make
also.
cook it like a vegetable also. It is delicious.
But it is very good for health.
Okay,
And
I
it's
didn't know.
interesting the way you take out the fiber. It's twisted around the finger as you are slicing the stem.
Right.
The fiber has to be twisted around because sometimes it can be pretty fibrous.
Okay, does it depend on how old the banana tree is?
Yes. So
Yes.
like in the earlier verse, we were reading that he was making cups out of the bark. So the outer drier part, outer layers are used for the disposable cups.
Yes.
And the innermost part, the tenderest part, is used as a vegetable. We tried with the banana plants that we were growing, and no part of the stem was tender. So I'm wondering if you have to, when the banana plant is cut down earlier in the stage, if it's tender or if it's a variety. I couldn't figure that out.
A variety of banana plants?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
And
this
in
is
Kartik Mas, they will do in those things, they will lamps, and then they'll do in Ganges, they do that.
what do they do in the
They-
lamps?
They just spray Ganges, that's all.
Oh, okay.
They just
Okay.
leave it in the water. It just goes
Okay.
like
So this is
floats.
very interesting. I didn't know these
A
things.
very beautiful scene to see.
See, by the Satam Prasangam, yeah, Mama Virya Samvido, by doing this in devotees, we find out more things about this pastime. Thank you. I had no idea. Text 69.
প্রভুর অতি প্রিয় দাস ভগবান পণ্ডিত, যার দেহে কৃষ্ণ পূর্বে হইলা অধিষ্ঠিত।
The 30th branch was Bhagavan Pandit. He was an extremely dear servant of the Lord, but even previously, he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna who always kept the Lord within his heart.
জগদীশ পণ্ডিত আর হিরণ্য মহাশয়, যারে কৃপা কইল বাল্যে প্রভু দয়াময়।
The 31st branch was Jagadish Pandit, and the 32nd was Hiranya Mahashai, unto whom Lord Chaitanya in his childhood showed his causeless mercy. Purport. Jagadish Pandit was formerly a great dancer in Krishna Lila and was known as Chandrahasa, moon smile. Regarding Hiranya Pandit, it is said that once Lord Nityananda, decorated with valuable jewels, stayed at his home, and a great thief attempted all night long to plunder these jewels, but was unsuccessful. Later, he came to Nityananda Prabhu and surrendered unto him. This is like the similar to the thief who happened to come into a discussion of the Srimad Bhagavatam, a presentation of the Srimad Bhagavatam by devotees hearing. So he was hearing and he heard the description of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan being decorated with all these valuable jewels and ornaments. So what do thieves do? I think, oh, great opportunity. I'll go to Vrindavan, I'll find Krishna, and I'll steal his ornaments. That way I'll become a rich man. So he went there. And there he saw Lord Krishna as a child, a young child. And he said, first, oh, you please give me the ornaments. I'm a thief and I have to admit, so please, you're just a young boy, you don't need all this. So Lord Krishna said, what did he say? Oh, no, my mother Yashoda would be very unhappy. She's entrusted these things to me. And so I can't, but so back and forth they went. arguing, that the thief insisting and Lord Krishna refusing. So finally, by Lord Krishna's association, the thief became purified and surrendered to Krishna. Just like here, Lord Nityananda Prabhu has purified this thief who came to plunder his jewels. There was another thief in Bombay who came to the Bombay temple because he saw a picture of Srila Prabhupada wearing an expensive watch. And his special abilities was he was a pickpocket. So he could, expert pickpockets can pickpocket, without you knowing. So he thought he'd come to the temple and pick Srila Prabhupada's pocket or get his watch. That way he'd become wealthy also. So he came, and by the association of the devotees, especially Giriraj Maharaj, he became, he surrendered to Krishna. He didn't get the watch, but he got something better than a watch. And that devotee, his name was Hari, he became initiated as Haridas. Haridas. He was the first devotee, other than Srila Prabhupada, that went to Moscow and did Sankirtan there in the streets. Haridas. So this is the influence of Krishna. Krishna consciousness can turn the heart of even a thief to become purified, even with material evil intentions. Come to Krishna, like the sun can purify even the latrine. Yes. Comments? Questions? Text 71.
Prabhuji, similar could be like Sanatan Goswami. Thief came to the Sanatan Goswami for Chintamani stone. So he asked for the Chintamani stone, and even later on he realized that, like, if this is too valuable, so why Sanatan Goswami kept in the trash bag? So there is something valuable than that. So he went again, and so Sanatan Goswami given him Harina, so Mahamantra. So
I don't think I don't recall that was a thief, though. Was he a thief? Was he a thief? Perhaps so. What do others say? Just someone who wanted. Was he a thief? Well, we'll have
He was
to.
a devotee of Lord Shiva.
Yeah, that's what I had. So anyway, but the point is this. The point is he got the more valuable thing as the holy name instead of the touchstone. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Text 71.
এই দুই ঘরে প্রভু একাদশী দিনে বিষ্ণুর নৈবেদ্য মাগি খাইল আপনে।
In their two houses, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu begged foodstuffs on the Ekadashi day and ate them personally. Purport. The injunction to fast on Ekadashi is especially meant for devotees. On Ekadashi, there are no restrictions regarding foodstuffs that may be offered to the Lord. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the foodstuffs of Lord Vishnu in his ecstasy as Vishnu Tattva. So in the temple, we have Sri Sri Gaur Nitai on the altar, and we say that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of the devotee, showing how to be a devotee. And Lord Chaitanya, when he was a young child, he implored his mother not to take rice or grains on Ekadashi day. So on Ekadashi at the temple, are grains offered to Lord Chaitanya, Sri Sri Gaur Nitai?
Yes, we offer grain.
Who's that? Who's that? Mother Golokananda Priya?
Yeah.
And why is that? And why is that?
Say we worship Lord Chaitanya as, not different from Radha Krishna. worship him like a devotee.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Yeah, we worship him primarily as the Lord, not as, although he has his Baba as a devotee, we worship him that way in his Vishnu category. So therefore,
That's why we put peacock feather, we offer him tulsi also.
yeah. So interesting point is that in some Gaudiya Math temples, they don't put the peacock feather on the crown of Lord Chaitanya in their worship. And there's some criticism of ISKCON that sometimes there's the peacock feather there. So Janani Vasi has a little video discussing that. He said, so when he talked with those people who were criticizing, he said, what do you offer? What do you offer Lord Chaitanya on Ekadashi? Grains or not grains? They said grains. And what do you offer? Do you offer tulsi leaf to the feet of Lord Chaitanya? Yes. So then why is it not a good idea to have the peacock feather? Because tulsi, we don't offer to anybody else. We don't offer tulsi, bhoga tulsi, to the spiritual master or to the feet of Srimati Radharani, only to Krishna. Krishna expansion.
Vishnu Tattva, all the
Vishnu Tattva, right. So consistency would be there that we offer. On the altar, we're treating Lord Chaitanya Nityananda as God. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mother Golokananda Priya. X72.
প্রভুর পড়ুয়া দুই পুরুষোত্তম সঞ্জয় ব্যাকরণে দুই শিষ্য দুই মহাশয়.
The 33rd and 34th branches were the two students of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu named Purushottam and Sanjay, who were stalwart students in grammar. They were very great personalities. Purport. These two students were inhabitants of Navadvip and were the Lord's first companions in the Sankirtan movement. According to Chaitanya Bhagavat, Purushottam Sanjay was the son of Mukunda Sanjay. But the author of Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita has clarified that Purushottam and Sanjay were two people, not one. So we know that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his youth had a school that he started at about 12 years old. He was the teacher. We don't see many teachers at 12 years old nowadays, but he had a school and he had many students. Some of the students became puffed up, critical of Lord Chaitanya, and criticized him. So later, that's one of the impetuses for Lord Chaitanya to take sannyas. But these two students, Purushottam and Sanjay, were stalwart in grammar and also great devotees of Lord Chaitanya, and says that they were his first companions in the Sankirtan movement. Purushottam and Sanjay. It'd be fun to have everybody repeat the names after each of these verses. What do you think? Get those vibrations going. Is it okay? Let's say, I say Purushottam and Sanjay.
Purushottam and Sanjay.
Purushottam and Sanjay.
You're muted, Prabhu. Sorry.
Okay, that happens. Text 73.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this Mukunda Sanjay, is that the same is in the Guru Vandana? Sanjaya Mukunda Vasaya Digaya. So is that the same project?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Sanjay Mukunda Vasu. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Good question. Maybe you can research that, Ramshyam Prabhu.
Yeah.
Text 73.
বনমালী পণ্ডিত শাখা বিখ্যাত জগতে সোনার মুসল হল দেখিল প্রভুর হাতে।
Vanamali Pandit, the 35th branch of the tree, was very celebrated in this world. He saw in the hands of the Lord a golden club and plow. Really? Purport: Vanamali Pandit saw Lord Chaitanya in the ecstasy of Balaram. This is described vividly in Chaitanya Bhagavat Antya Lila, chapter 9. Vanamali Pandit. What is that?
Vanamali Pandit.
There you go. That's right. Yes. Text 74.
শ্রী চৈতন্যের অতি প্রিয় বুদ্ধিমন্ত খান আজন্ম আজ্ঞাকারী তেহ সেবক প্রধান।
The 36th branch was Buddhimanta Khan. This 36th branch, Buddhimanta Khan, was extremely dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was always prepared to carry out the Lord's orders, and therefore he was considered to be a chief servant of the Lord. Purport: Sri Buddhimanta Khan was one of the inhabitants of Navadvip. He was very rich, and it is he who arranged for the marriage of Lord Chaitanya with Vishnupriya, the daughter of Sanatan Mishra, who was the priest of the local Zamindar. He personally defrayed all the expenditures for the marriage ceremony. When the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was attacked by Vayu Vyadhi, derangement of the air within the body, Buddhimanta Khan paid for all requisite medicines and treatments to cure the Lord. He was the Lord's constant companion in the Kirtan movement. He collected ornaments for the Lord, and he played the part of the goddess of fortune collected ornaments for the Lord when he played the part of the goddess of fortune in the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya. He also went to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was staying at Jagannath Puri. Sri Buddhimanta Khan.
Shri Buddhimanta Khan.
বুদ্ধিমন্ত খান।
Yes, yes. Text 75.
গরুড় পণ্ডিত লয় শ্রীনাম মঙ্গল নাম বলে বিষ যারে না করিল বল।
Garuda Pandit, the 37th branch of the tree, always engaged in chanting the auspicious name of the Lord. Because of the strength of this chanting, even the effects of poison could not touch him. Purport: Garuda Pandit was once bitten by a poisonous snake, but the snake's poison could not affect him because of his chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Very interesting. So in India, there are these persons that a person can go to if they're bitten by, say, a cobra, that chant mantras and to cure the person from the poisonous effects of the snake bite. Anybody had that experience? No?
No.
Nobody's been bitten by a cobra here, huh? Okay, we're lucky. There's a devotee in Atlanta now. He used to be in Philadelphia. His name is Uttamanand. He told me the story about how he was bitten at 6 or 7 years old by the cobra in his foot, and his uncle happened to know the mantra. So he went to this uncle and they chanted the mantra, and his black liquid came out, and so he was cured from that. But here we see that the same effect is there, or even better effect, by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, even the bite of a snake is not take effect. So this is Garuda Pandit.
Garuda Pandit.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments about Garuda Pandit or this idea? I think, go ahead. No, as if I remember, by legend also, I mean, we know in Srimad Bhagavatam that Prahlad Maharaj was also administered poison, but because he was focusing his attention on Krishna, he was always remembering Krishna, it had no effect. And similarly, according to legend anyway, the great devotee Meera,
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah.
What's that?
Mirabai, yeah, that I was going to tell the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, say.
Yeah, Mirabai was, I mean, it's a poison by, by in-laws. When he drank it, she just came like as if she was drinking nectar. That's what they said.
Yeah, by legend. We don't know for sure, but that's certainly possible according to this. Yeah. Text 76.
গোপীনাথ সিংহ এক চৈতন্যের দাস, অক্রূর বলি প্রভু যারে কইলা পরিহাস।
Gopinath Singha, the 38th branch of the tree, was a faithful servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord jokingly addressed him as Akrur. Purport. Actually, he was a Kurara, as stated in Gaura Gunadesh Deepika. Gopinath Singha.
Gopinath Simha.
Yes.
ভাগবতী দেবানন্দ বক্রেশ্বর কৃপাতে ভাগবতের ভক্তি অর্থ পাইল প্রভু হইতে।
Devananda Pandit was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam, but by the mercy of Rakeshwar Pandit and the grace of the Lord, he understood the devotional interpretation of the Bhagavatam purport. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila, chapter 21, it is stated that Devananda Pandit was an inhabitant of the same village in which the father of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Visharada, lived. He was a professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like his interpretation of it. In the present town of Navadvip, which was formerly known as Kulia, Lord Chaitanya showed much mercy to him, such mercy to him that he gave up the Mayavadi interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam and learned how to explain Srimad Bhagavatam in terms of bhakti. Formerly, when Devananda was expounding the Mayavadi interpretation, Srivas Thakur was once present in his meeting, and when he began to cry, Devananda's students drove him away. Some days later, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed that way, and when he met Devananda, he chastised him severely because of his Mayavad interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. At that time, Devananda had little faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as an incarnation of Lord Krishna. But one night, sometime later, Vakreshvara Pandit was a guest in his house. And when he explained the science of Krishna, Devananda was convinced about the identity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, he was induced to explain Srimad Bhagavatam according to the Vaishnava understanding. In the Gaur Gunadesh Deepika, it is described that he was formerly Bhaguri Muni, who was the Shabha Pandit who recited Vedic literature in the house of Nanda Maharaj. Devananda Pandit.
Devananda Pandit.
There we go. Okay. So we see that Srimad Bhagavatam is also sometimes recited by those who have an impersonalist understanding of the absolute truth, because just talking about entity that's formless, has no activities, has no qualities, gets boring. So usually because of their boredom, Mayavadi sometimes take up the Srimad Bhagavatam and try to explain it, but screwing out a impersonal interpretation. But as we see here, Srivas Pandit, hearing that impersonal interpretation cried. It was so painful and was driven out. Similarly, when Srila Prabhupada was staying with Dr. Mishra in New York, he didn't let him speak because the impersonal interpretation was prevalent there in his classes, and so Srila Prabhupada challenged that. They wouldn't let him speak there. And so Srila Prabhupada therefore got his own place. But by the mercy of Vakeshwar Pandit, the devotee, and Lord Chaitanya, he became purified in understanding the personal interpretation, personal understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you. Thank you all. Devananda Pandit, Hare Krishna.
Devananda.
Devananda
Ananda
Pandit.
Pandit.
Hare Krishna.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Thank you, Vishnugada Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. In
Hare
India,
Krishna.
well, the Kavita in India, yes. And that's also Prananath Prabhu is in India, is it? Yes.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept my-
International. So Friday is Janmashtami and Saturday is Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. A lot of services to be done. A lot of thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and its devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo.